Well, hello, everybody. It's me again, trying to maneuver all of this as I usually do. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Parent to Parent. I'm so glad we're live because you can actually comment and we'll be answering those questions live for you. And this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about because I have my own kids, specifically my son, who is gone to kindergarten. And I was just kind of looking at things that are out there. Also, just when I talk with other parents, I know mental health has been a huge concern since the pandemic, not just for adults, but also for children. And the thing with children is going to a counselor, which is traditional. And while it might be effective, it could be scary and it could be harder to get that result that you want. So one of my friends actually told me about play therapy, and I just did a little bit of research, and I ran into Brittany Persha and her website and her company and what she does, and she's joining us live today. So before I bring her in, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She's a licensed clinical social worker supervisor and registered play therapist supervisor with more than 10 years of experience in private practice, specializing in therapy with children and families, and got a master's degree from U of H. She has started her own business, has had it for a little bit, and I want to just bring her in so she can talk more about your business. There you go. Brittany, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited
Yes.
to be here.
So when did you decide to start your business?
That's a good question. Oh gosh, I started the practice, I believe, about 5 years ago, and I have two children myself. So right now, my kids are 9 and 7, and my son was 4 or 5 months old, and I wanted to go back to work, but I wanted to do something that was flexible, and I loved play therapy, and so I just started that. Back then when he was a baby, and then it's really grown, and my passion for working for kids eventually kind of shifted my journey to opening a group practice that really specializes in children and play therapy.
That's awesome. And so for a lot of us like me that don't know what play therapy is, can you explain what it is?
I'd be happy to. I love talking about play therapy, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, basically, and I guess the short end of it, so play therapy, as adults, we use words to talk about what we're going through, what we're struggling, what we're thinking about. We use words to express ourselves. With children, though, they cognitively just aren't, their brains aren't developed. Their prefrontal cortex is not developed like ours is as adults. So they aren't able to articulate themselves and express themselves verbally like we are. So our kids express themselves is through play. So
Mhm.
basically for kids, play is their language. And so with play therapy, it's been around for a while and research evidence-based, but what it does, it allows us trained play therapists to enter a child's world and be able to understand it from their vantage point, to really understand how they're seeing things, what they're struggling with, what they're thinking, how they're feeling through the toys and through the play in the playroom. So it's pretty powerful and amazing, actually.
Yeah. Jamie Manning saying, love play therapy. It's a
Yay.
wonderful tool. Um, so I think that a lot of um, a lot of comments that we're seeing is, why don't you just play with your kids? And I'll answer that as a parent because I play with my children. That's not an issue.
Absolutely.
It's sometimes you're wondering, what is my child thinking? Like, there's
Mhm.
these big feelings. I would even argue that adults don't even know what they're thinking a lot of times and cannot associate their feelings with what's happening, which is fine. But when I was researching more about play therapy, I was so, I guess, fascinated by how you can, if you have someone trained like yourself, you can enter in your child's world
Yeah.
and kind of figure out what they are thinking. So I think that's awesome. And the other thing, I'll let you talk in just a second because I understand parents' concerns, like, well, my parents didn't do this and I turned out fine. And and I would even argue personally, my parents did that as well, but I wish they didn't. Like, I
Mhm.
wish that there was kind of like a, what's going on, so you don't have that struggle. You just want your child to be happy. So, what kind of, I guess, what's the gamut of children that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think it's not just playing.
Mhm.
as much as we do play in the playroom, but it's what it is we are entering the world, and then we're reflecting feelings, right? We're tracking their play in a way to help them gain more understanding of what their experience is and what's actually going on with them. One of the first benefits you'll often see with kids in play therapy is at home parents will say they're starting to name their emotions. Before, they didn't understand how they were feeling, but through the play and through us reflecting, oh man, you're really angry as or I don't know, hitting these toys together, whatever they're doing, they start to recognize, oh, that's what anger is. They just don't, it doesn't just, we don't just automatically get those things, right? They have to be learned and taught. And I think just as in adults go to counseling to get support and learn tools to cope with what they're going through, it's the very same thing for kids. So it's different than just playing with your kids, like you said. But as far as who we see in the playroom, really everything. We work with tons of kids with anxiety, ADHD, behavioral problems so much. We see lots of kids are struggling with behaviors. We work a lot with life transitions like divorce or moving. So really just about anything you guys as adults would go and seek counseling for, we do that for kids.
And what's also great is the option is also there for the parents to be there with the counselor and see what's going on as well to make the child comfortable, because the goal is to have them open up, which is the
Absolutely.
hardest part. And how old, I would ask, is the oldest, would you call them patients, like patients that you would have?
Oh, we froze for a second. I'm sorry.
There we go, you're back.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so it froze for me when you were saying letting parents back into the playroom as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and then I was just saying that what is the like oldest patient, if you call them patients, I don't know what you would say, but
uh-huh.
what's the oldest
The oldest clients, we see clients of all ages.
clients? Okay.
I would say, yeah, we call them clients. I would say as far as doing play therapy, we do expressive arts therapy and different types of expressive modalities with teens as well. It just looks a little different than traditional play therapy where you're playing with dolls or swords and things, but really with all ages. Teens would be very different, right? But we would still use other ways to externalize what they're going through. Sometimes it's just that stuff is too close to home. And if you're able to express it through painting or drawing or usually modeling clay, that can just be another way for them to understand more about themselves, accept themselves and where they're at, and learn how to cope with what they're going through. So yeah, all ages.
Yeah. We actually have, let's see here. There we go. Lisa, who said, love the play therapy. My nephew looks forward to his therapy session. He's 9. What's also awesome is, if you have insurance, this can be covered under the mental health counseling, which is,
Definitely.
which is huge. So it's not, and it's not just about finding a counselor. And I've done stories about how that is just backed up when you finally come to, I guess, the realization you need a counselor, you need help outside of the family and friends, then you're on this waiting list. And it's like, well, I need help right now. What would you say is the biggest difference you've seen? You said you've had the business for 5 years, but you've done this for longer.
I think 7 years now that I realize.
7 years.
Since my son was born, so he's
But what
7.
I'm saying is you've done it through the pandemic. Have you seen
Mhm.
a shift and change?
Yes, lots actually. We're grateful to be back in the playroom because it was not fun doing play therapy through telehealth for us or the kiddos, but we did it. We made it through it, and honestly, what we've seen is just a crazy increase in anxiety and social anxiety, and we just see so many kids struggling socially and adapting to social situations because it was just that was taken from them for so long. So those like core developmental, seasons, they just weren't able to engage socially. It was hard. The other thing we see a large increase is OCD type behaviors and just other anxiety related things, that are just I think a product of the pandemic and just the increase in anxiety and hypervigilance in general. I would say just an increase in overall like hypervigilance in kids and anxiety after going through that.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that it's not like you don't feel alone, because I felt
Absolutely.
like, what's wrong with, just because my son was having is currently having some issues with just anxiety and stuff. But I just found out it's like, it's I mean, all children are feeling something, just like adults are.
Mhm.
And because of the pandemic, he was used to, as my daughter, with adults, because you're staying at home,
Right.
or, so you're interacting and you're more comfortable with adults.
Right.
One thing that's kind of helped is there's a program which many school districts have, where you have the high schoolers come to the elementary school and they kind of partner up and
Yeah, it's called PALS.
yeah, pals. I didn't
Well,
just for
that's how I started before I became a
oh,
therapist. That's actually how I think I knew I wanted to be a therapist. That's so funny you say that. So back
really?
in high school, you just made me light up. I was a PAL myself. I did it sophomore, junior, and senior year. And it's amazing. It's just an opportunity for kids to get one-on-one attention and get
Mhm.
support and just feel like valued and heard and just comfortable and
Yes.
safe. It is so powerful. So yes, PALS is an amazing program that's in most school districts.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how many they can take per grade, but it is a fantastic thing that the local parents could reach out to their counselors and see if that's a program that they have, because it is, although like he is struggling right now, and like so many kids are, with support and resources, he will be able to work through this and get back right to him.
Mhm.
It just takes, just like all of us, sometimes we just need some extra tools in our tool belt to get through those seasons.
Yeah, definitely. And in other states, because I was talking to some coworkers about it, they call it different things. So, but that interaction is
Absolutely.
so important. I do want to bring up this comment because I think it
Mhm.
is a misconception. Um, what does a 9-year-old have anxiety for? It's y'all freaking insane parents who are off. Quit making your kids grow up too fast. I'm sure you've responded to criticism like this.
Mhm.
What do you say?
Um, well, anxiety is a real thing at all ages. So
Hmm.
I think that what's significant and important to a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old isn't significant and important to them. So although as an adult, we might not see, being nervous about Susie or Joey talking to us, or being nervous about walking into the lunchroom as a big deal, for that person, for that little person at their age, that is their world. That
Hmm.
is such a big deal. So what I would say is, I think that it doesn't have to do with parents doing it. It's just kind of meeting kids where they're at. So I think as adults, we can kind of, I think, dismiss their experiences, but they're very valuable and important. This is where they're at. So of course it's important to them. So
Yeah, and I would always argue that if you are dismissing all these things, it's going to build up and maybe even get you to a point where you would think that about other children. So I would say that, you know, you got to put your mind in a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or
absolutely.
7-year-old's world, which is why the mom is everything, the dad is everything.
Right.
Um, and there's feelings, there's big feelings. You're just trying to understand. You haven't felt that before. Um, and so I think that it has a lot to do with you just trying to be the best parent and give your child your best future. So there's that. I saw this, which was very on your website,
Mhm.
which by the way, I encourage everyone to go to. Um,
Oh,
what does play therapy mean? So can you explain what we're looking at here?
yeah. So this was actually made by Olympia Therapy. She's a wonderful play therapist, Carrie Hamilton, who created this graphic I use. And basically, this is a worksheet that we will use, will give to parents to provide to their children before they're going to come to their first play therapy session. So it kind of just goes over briefly, like, here is a script of what you can say. I'll meet a new person, have a special playtime with this person, I can be myself with them, and this person is safe. And it kind of just preps. Basically, a lot of times it's kind of like a very brief social story. It just helps a parent provide that prep for a child so they can go into that experience, knowing what to expect and having some idea of what's coming, which can be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So what are the first steps that someone needs to take if they are looking into doing something like this?
The first steps would just be research, play therapists in your area. We have an Association of Play Therapy. So you can go to apt.org and you can search for play therapists through that website. So anywhere in your, and then you can search, in your community, or you can just Google play therapist in your community. And then it's reach out to them, reach out to that local play therapist and schedule a parent intake. So, we will always meet with parents first and do a full session with parents to understand their child, their unique situation, and everything before we would ever meet with the child. And like you said, I actually really love doing parent-child sessions together. So that's really my modality of choice. So I actually typically see parents and children together. And I find we're able to use play and even in another way, and it's just another play therapy modality that I find so effective and just helpful. Parents get the support and the child all in one. And I just think the results and the progress with like reducing anxiety, reducing behavioral problems, improving kids' self-esteem, ability to structure, so effective with bringing the parent into the playroom with me. So that's actually what I typically do.
Yeah, no, that's great. And do you find it that you're booked up? I mean, there's a lot of people that need this.
Yes, it's hard. And I felt whenever you said that, I think that weighs on our hearts too, that there is wait lists and it's hard to get in because we want to help too. But the reality is there is a mental health shortage right now. And so there's just more need than providers to help. And so I think I know that we're all spread thin and just doing the best we can to provide as much support as we can. So I do encourage people to reach out. And if there is a wait list, get on that wait list and know that, those therapists were trying. But it is, that part is so hard. It's so hard whenever we're not able to see someone right away.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you gave us that perspective too. Cause it's hard on both ends, obviously the parent and the child, but also for the counselor or the therapist or whoever on the other end too, because you're trying to help as many people as possible, especially your profession. You have to be very passionate about it to, be successful. So, kudos
Absolutely.
to you and everyone that does all that to help the kids out. What would you say to parents who say are on the wait list or are not able to get in with someone soon? What can they do at home for the time being?
Good question. You know what I would say? I would say a couple things. One, reach out to the school counselors because typically they can pull kids for a certain amount of sessions per year until they, so I know school counselors can do some support there and they have some social groups and stuff that are really great. I would also say really starting to build in some connection time with your children, like twice a day, just trying to build in some time where we just slow down and we're just present and play with them. That in itself, just being present with them can be a huge, huge help. There's some great books I could recommend if you think that would be helpful. A couple of my favorite books, I actually sat them aside in case a conversation like this came up. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So a couple of my favorite books right now.
And these are all on your website, right?
Ooh, if not, I will put them on there soon.
Okay.
But this one is not. This is a new
Okay.
one. It's called Brain Body Parenting, and it's amazing. And it's a great start to resource. And there's an audio book. Another one I love is How to Talk. And it has so many great tools. And my other favorite is The Whole Brain Child by Dan Siegel. So what I would say is while you're on a wait list, like start educating yourself, doing your reading, learning some tools so that you can start helping them right now. Because just because you're on a wait list doesn't mean you can't start making change. I guess the last thing I would say is all behavior is communication. So with kids, what we're doing in the playroom is we're noticing the behavior and then we're getting curious about what's underneath that behavior. What is the need? What's going on for them? And then we're meeting them at the need, and then we're going from there. And so I would say really getting curious about their behavior and what is going on around them at that time. What else is not just looking at the behavior, what's underneath it, and then trying to address it from there.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And I'm guilty of it. My whenever I'm playing, I, check something on the phone or whatever. And you have to also look at yourself because Absolutely. I had to make that self-correct. And I still do many times, like not answer the phone call, not going to check that email. It's just us, even though I'm going to admit, 5 minutes of playing with them sometimes feels like 30 minutes.
Absolutely. It's quality over quantity. I'm like 5 minutes, like that's what we need. And you do it. That's all you can do sometimes, know, and that was a lot. And so we're proud of what we did and we keep moving because parenting is hard. And for all of us, I don't care if you're a play therapist, I don't care who you are, it is hard.
It is
and
hard.
We just got to support each other and just know that every day we're just doing the best we can. And next day we can improve on whatever was hard before,
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of people that ask me, because of my hours and being on air and being a parent, like, how do you do it? And it's like, I'm still figuring it out. There are days that I am just not, happy with things that have happened at home, like either my child came home crying or whatever. But we all of us, not just because my job is on TV, but everyone, you're not on TV, but everybody has something going on. And
Absolutely.
so supporting each other is the best thing to do. And
Absolutely.
I want to make it seem as real as possible, talking about these issues, these challenges, because this parenting thing is the hardest thing that, I mean, it's like, what is happening? And you're trying
True.
your best. And in this ever changing world, just trying to make the best decision. So thank you so much, Brittany, for talking to us about this. I hope that we can talk to you again, because there's so many wonderful topics and so many questions that people come up with. And I appreciate all of you on Facebook and YouTube and our website that I've watched. Brittany, again, Brittany Persha, you have your website. Just amazing resource there with other websites as well. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. I would love to come on anytime. And thank you so much.
Yes.
What a great resource this is for parents too. Just keeping
Yeah,
it real
I'm
and
just
open
glad that I
forum
can
with that.
connect all of you. So thank you for that. And all of you, next week we'll have another edition Parent to Parent. I think what we're going to be talking about is what we are feeding our children, because I was packing my son's lunch. You got the goldfish, the gummies, and then the sandwich, and he comes back with just like, the goldfish and the gummies are gone. How do you even handle that? So we're probably going to be talking with cardiologists, one of my favorite cardiologists, Dr. John Higgins, next week, and I'll show you what's in my pantry and what's good, what's not good, what's okay. Because legit, my daughter asked for ice cream this morning for breakfast. Maybe gave it to her because I was like, let me pick and choose my battles. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great day, and we will see you next week.